The eternal crystallite corridors of the noble cruiser gleamed with an otherworldly light, casting prismatic reflections along the walls as Justin Hale made his way through the labyrinthine passageways. The diplomatic vessel was a marvel of engineering, a testament to the alliance between diverse civilizations scattered across the stars. Its halls were adorned with artifacts from a dozen worlds, and the air carried the subtle fragrance of exotic herbs and minerals not found on Earth. Justin adjusted the collar of his engineering uniform, the dark blue fabric a stark contrast to the luminescent hallways. As the ship's human systems engineer, he had been dispatched to fix a translation malfunction between the sensor arrays, a critical task given the importance of the ongoing diplomatic mission. Various noble houses from across the galaxy had representatives aboard, and even the smallest miscommunication could lead to interstellar incidents. The noble wing had recently undergone structural upgrades, and Justin studied the outdated schematics in his hand, trying to match them to the reality before him. The reconfiguration had changed many of the pathways, and the crystallite hallways all looked frustratingly similar. "Junction 7 should be right around this corner," he muttered to himself, tracing his finger along the holographic display. The translation module needed urgent attention. Without it, the sensor arrays would be deaf to certain frequencies, potentially missing crucial communications or, worse, threats. He turned left at what he believed was the 7th junction and approached a door that, according to his outdated map, should lead to a secondary access panel for the communications array. Without hesitation, he pressed his palm against the access panel. The door slid open with a soft hiss. Instead of the expected technical compartment, Justin froze at the threshold of what was clearly a private chamber. The room was bathed in a soft amber light, and standing in its center was a tall, elegant figure. Lady Amber Villari, heir to the Villari royal house, was in the process of changing her ceremonial attire. Her slender form was partially draped in shimmering fabrics that caught the light like liquid metal, while her luminescent golden eyes widened in surprise at the intrusion. Justin's heart hammered against his ribs. He had just violated one of the strictest protocols aboard the ship, entering a noble's private quarters without permission. Worse, he had intruded upon the privacy of one of the most influential diplomats on board. I'm so sorry," he stammered, immediately averting his gaze and preparing to back out. "There's been a terrible mistake. The schematics, they must be outdated. I was looking for the communications array." But Lady Amber didn't react with the outrage he expected. Instead, she tilted her head slightly, her expression shifting from surprise to curiosity. The bioluminescent patterns along her temples glowed with increased intensity, and her tail, a feature of the Villari species, curled thoughtfully. "You are the human engineer," she stated, her voice melodic yet formal. She made no attempt to cover herself further, instead studying Justin with an analytical gaze. "Yes, ma'am. Justin Hale. I sincerely apologize for the intrusion. I'll leave immediately." He kept his eyes fixed on the floor, backing toward the door. "Stop," Amber commanded, her tone gentle but firm. "You have initiated the seeing, Engineer Hale." Justin halted, confusion overriding his embarrassment. "The seeing? You have entered my private chamber and witnessed me in a state of undress," she explained, her voice steady and matter-of-fact. "In Villari custom, this constitutes a formal invitation to the bonding ritual. What you might call a mating invitation." The blood drained from Justin's face. "A what?" The words came out as barely more than a whisper. "It is tradition," Amber continued, seemingly untroubled by the situation. "When one sees another in such a vulnerable state, it creates a bond of trust that must be acknowledged. The viewer becomes responsible for the one viewed, a protector, a potential mate." Justin swallowed hard. "Lady Amber, this was completely accidental. I had no intention." Intention is irrelevant in matters of the seeing, she replied, finally reaching for a robe and wrapping it around herself. The fabric shimmered with embedded bioluminescent threads that pulsed in rhythm with her own natural luminescence. The event has occurred. Protocol must be followed. Before Justin could formulate a response, his communication device chimed urgently. He hesitated, torn between protocol and the bizarre situation. "Answer it," Amber said with a slight nod. He tapped the device. "Hale here." "Engineer Hale," came the stern voice of Ambassador Myron. "Report to my office immediately. There's been an incident." "Yes, sir. On my way." Justin ended the communication and looked up at Amber, who was now fully robed and regarding him with an unreadable expression. "You should go," she said. "We will discuss this matter further when the diplomatic obligations allow." Justin nodded stiffly and backed out of the room, the door sliding shut between them. Once alone in the corridor, he leaned against the wall, his heart still racing. What had just happened? A mating invitation? He was a systems engineer, not a diplomat. He had no training for this kind of cultural entanglement. With a deep breath, he straightened his uniform and set off toward Ambassador Myron's office, his mind racing with the implications of what had just occurred. The ambassador's office was a stark contrast to the luminescent corridors outside. Decorated in the subdued Earth diplomatic style, it offered a familiar sanctuary amidst the alien architecture of the ship. Ambassador Myron, a veteran diplomat with salt and pepper hair and perpetually tired eyes, looked up from his desk as Justin entered. "Engineer Hale," Myron said, gesturing to the chair across from him. "Please, sit down." Justin complied, his posture rigid with tension. "I've just received a rather unusual communication from the Volari delegation," Myron began, steepling his fingers. "It seems you've found yourself in a rather delicate situation with Lady Amber Volari." "Sir, it was a complete accident," Justin explained hastily. "The schematics I was given were outdated. I was looking for the secondary communications array access panel." Myron raised a hand to silence him. "I understand that, Hale. But the Volari don't place much importance on intent in these matters. The fact is, you've inadvertently initiated what they call the seeing, a ritualistic first step in their bonding ceremonies." "So I've been told," Justin replied, running a hand through his short dark hair. "But surely they understand that humans don't follow the same customs. There must be some diplomatic way to politely decline." The ambassador's expression grew grave. "It's not that simple. The Volari take their rituals very seriously. To reject such an invitation outright would be seen as a profound insult, not just to Lady Amber personally, but to the entire Volari house." "But I can't. I mean, I'm not—" Justin struggled to find the right words. "Sir, I'm an engineer. I fix things. I'm not equipped for interspecies diplomacy, let alone whatever this is." "I understand your discomfort, Hale, but this situation extends beyond your personal feelings. The alliance with the Volari is crucial for maintaining stability in this sector. Their technology, their influence—" Myron sighed heavily. "Chief Engineer Meyer has been informed. You're being temporarily reassigned from your regular duties." "Reassigned?" Justin echoed, his stomach sinking. "You're to report to Lady Amber tomorrow morning. She has requested your presence for what they call the Trial of Dissonance, a 3-day evaluation period where both parties assess compatibility." 3 days! Justin felt as if the floor were dropping out from beneath him. "Sir, with all due respect, the translation system needs attention now. The sensors have already been assigned to Engineer Kapoor," Myron interrupted. "This takes precedence. Hale, the Volari Royal House doesn't extend invitations lightly, even accidental ones. Lady Amber could have dismissed the incident, claimed it never happened. The fact that she acknowledged it officially means something. Justin sat back, trying to process the implications. What exactly is expected of me during this trial? That's between you and Lady Amber, Myron replied. The specifics of Volari bonding rituals aren't widely shared with outsiders. But I can tell you this: be respectful, be honest, and for God's sake, try not to violate any more of their customs. And after the 3 days? If either party decides against proceeding, the matter is closed with no loss of honor, provided the trial is completed in full. But if both agree to continue— Myron trailed off, then shrugged. Well, let's cross that bridge if we come to it. Justin nodded slowly, his mind racing with questions and concerns. Is there anything I should know about Volari customs before tomorrow? Any resources I can study? Myron tapped on his tablet and transferred some files to Justin's device. These are the basics of Volari protocol. Study them tonight. And hail, he added, his voice softening slightly. Try to remember that despite appearances, the Volari are not so different from us in the things that matter. They value honesty, courage, and respect, just as we do. Yes, sir, Justin replied, rising to his feet. I'll do my best not to cause an interstellar incident. That would be appreciated, Myron said with the ghost of a smile. Dismissed. Justin returned to his quarters, a modest compartment in the human section of the ship. After a cursory meal from the synthesizer, he spent the evening poring over the files Myron had provided, absorbing as much information about Volari customs as he could. The Volari were an ancient species, with traditions dating back millennia. Their society placed immense value on ritual and symbolism, with elaborate customs governing everything from meals to political negotiations. The bonding rituals were particularly complex, designed to ensure compatibility between potential mates while maintaining the social hierarchies that form the backbone of their culture. The seeing was indeed a significant event in their tradition, an initial recognition of potential compatibility that triggered a formal evaluation process. Justin was surprised to learn that traditionally, many Volari arranged to be accidentally seen by desirable partners, using the custom as a socially acceptable way to initiate courtship. Great, he muttered to himself. I've accidentally proposed to an alien princess. He continued reading into the night, until his eyes grew heavy and the words began to blur on the screen. Tomorrow would bring the beginning of the trial of dissonance, and despite his apprehension, Justin was determined to handle the situation with as much grace and diplomacy as he could muster. Morning arrived too quickly. Justin woke to the soft chime of his alarm, feeling as if he'd barely slept. After a quick sonic shower and a change into his formal engineering uniform, the closest thing he had to ceremonial attire, he made his way back to the noble wing, this time with updated schematics and an escort to ensure he reached the correct destination. Lady Amber's reception chamber was a striking blend of organic and technological elements. Living plants with bioluminescent blossoms lined the walls, their gentle glow complementing the crystallite accents. A small fountain in the center of the room created a soothing ambient sound, the water flowing in patterns that seemed to defy gravity. Amber herself was seated on a raised dais at the far end of the chamber. Today, she was dressed in formal attire, a flowing ensemble of iridescent fabric that accentuated her tall, slender form. The bioluminescent patterns along her temples and arms pulsed with a calm, steady rhythm, and her golden eyes were fixed on Justin as he entered. Two other Volari stood at attention on either side of her dais, their postures formal and their expressions inscrutable. Guards, Justin presumed, or perhaps advisors. Engineer Justin Hale, Amber announced as he approached, her voice carrying easily across the chamber. You have answered the summons of the seeing. This honors the traditions of House Volari. Justin bowed slightly, as the protocol files had instructed. Lady Amber, I am here as requested. She gestured for him to approach closer, and he stepped forward until he stood at the base of the dais. "The trial of dissonance begins today," she explained, her tone formal, but not unfriendly. "For 3 cycles, you will accompany me in my duties and rituals. We will observe one another, learn of each other's ways, and determine if harmony exists between us." "I understand," Justin replied, though in truth, he understood very little of what lay ahead. "May I ask a question, Lady Amber?" She inclined her head slightly, the gesture granting permission. "What exactly happens at the end of these 3 days? What would be expected of me if harmony is found?" Amber's lips curved in a subtle smile. "A direct question. This is good." She rose from her seat and descended the steps of the dais until she stood before him, her height slightly greater than his own. "If harmony is found, you would become my protector consort, a position of significant honor and responsibility. You would represent both your species and mine in diplomatic functions. You would stand at my side in formal ceremonies. And yes," she added, noting his expression, "there would be certain personal obligations as well." Justin swallowed hard, trying to maintain a neutral expression. "And if harmony is not found, then we part with mutual respect, the matter closed without dishonor to either party." Her golden eyes studied him intently. "Does this concern you, Engineer Hale?" "I'd be lying if I said it didn't," he admitted, deciding that honesty was the best approach. "This is all very unexpected. Where I come from, relationships usually begin with conversation, not ritual." "Then let us converse," Amber replied, gesturing toward a small seating area to the side of the chamber. She dismissed her attendants with a subtle gesture, and they departed silently, leaving Justin alone with the Volari noble. As they sat across from each other, Justin noted that the seating was designed to place them at equal height, a sign of respect, according to the protocol files. "You proposed an alternative approach," Amber said once they were settled. "Getting acquainted before any commitments. This is not unreasonable." "Thank you," Justin replied, relief evident in his voice. "I appreciate your understanding. However," she continued, "the seeing has occurred. Protocol must be observed. But perhaps we can find a path that honors both our traditions." "I'm open to suggestions," he said. Amber considered for a moment, her tail curling thoughtfully. "The trial of dissonance allows for mutual evaluation. I propose we use these 3 days as you suggest, to become acquainted. You will accompany me, observe our ways, and I shall observe yours. At the conclusion, we will both have the information needed to make an informed decision." Justin nodded slowly. "That seems reasonable. But be warned, Engineer Hale," she added, her tone growing more serious. "Others of my house will be watching closely. Some may not approve of a human participating in our sacred rituals. You may face challenges." "I understand," he replied, though he felt a fresh wave of anxiety at the thought of facing hostile Volari nobles. "I'll do my best to respect your customs and represent my species with dignity." "This is all I can ask," Amber said with a slight nod. "Our first engagement will be a council meeting of the Volari nobles aboard this vessel. You will attend as my trial companion." Justin tensed. A room full of Volari nobility was not how he'd envisioned beginning this trial. "When is this meeting?" "Now," Amber replied, rising to her feet in a fluid motion. "They await us in the council chamber." With no time to prepare further, Justin followed Lady Amber through the crystallite corridors to a large, circular chamber dominated by a round table. 7 Volari nobles were already seated, their conversations falling silent as Amber entered with Justin at her side. Their luminescent patterns flashed with what Justin interpreted as surprise, and perhaps disapproval. Amber took her place at the table, and with a gesture, indicated that Justin should occupy the empty seat beside her. He did so, acutely aware of the critical gazes fixed upon him. Nobles of House Valari, Amber announced formally. I present Engineer Justin Hale of Earth. He participates in the trial of dissonance as my invited companion. One of the older Valari, his skin patterns faded with age, leaned forward with narrowed eyes. This is most irregular. Lady Amber, a human participating in our sacred rituals? What precipitated this unusual situation? The seeing occurred, Amber replied simply. As tradition demands, the trial follows. Murmurs rippled around the table, the luminescent patterns of the assembled nobles flickering rapidly, a sign of agitation. Justin recalled from his reading. And what value? Asked another noble, a female with elaborate patterns along her neck. Does a human engineer bring to House Valari? What qualities make him worthy of consideration as your consort? Justin remained silent, following the protocol that dictated he should not speak unless directly addressed. He focused on observing the subtle interplay of politics unfolding before him, the alliances and rivalries evident in the positioning and body language of the nobles. Engineer Hale possesses qualities that are not immediately evident, Amber responded coolly. Intelligence, adaptability, and if I am not mistaken, a certain steadfastness of character. The trial will reveal if my assessment is accurate. His species is known for its impulsivity, commented a third noble dismissively. They act without consideration of consequences. Is this truly the quality you seek in a consort, Lady Amber? At this, Amber's tail stiffened slightly, a sign of annoyance that Justin recognized from his studies. I was unaware, Lord Zorel, that you had made such a comprehensive study of human psychology. Perhaps you would share your research with the council? The noble named Zorel drew back slightly, his luminescent patterns dimming. I merely repeat what is commonly known. Common knowledge is often commonly wrong, Amber replied. I prefer to form my own judgments based on observation and evidence. That is, after all, the purpose of the trial. Justin remained outwardly calm, though inwardly he was taking careful note of the political currents swirling around him. Lord Zorel clearly disapproved of his presence, and several others seemed to share that sentiment. But a few of the nobles appeared merely curious, their expressions more thoughtful than hostile. The discussion moved on to other matters, trade agreements, territorial disputes, and the upcoming convocation at the Pillar of Accord. Justin listened attentively, absorbing as much information as he could while maintaining a respectful silence. When questions arose about human perspectives on certain issues, Amber occasionally invited him to respond, and he did so carefully, aware that his words would be scrutinized for any hint of weakness or unsuitability. As the meeting progressed, Justin noticed that Amber skillfully deflected the more pointed criticisms directed at him, while simultaneously maintaining her authority within the group. She was, he realized, protecting him politically while assessing his ability to navigate the complex social waters of Valari nobility. By the time the council adjourned, Justin had gained a new appreciation for the intricate dance of Valari politics, and for Amber's mastery of it. As they left the chamber, he noticed her giving him a subtle nod of approval, the first positive feedback he'd received since this ordeal began. You conducted yourself well, she said, once they were alone in the corridor. Many humans would have responded emotionally to Lord Zorel's provocations. I figured getting into an argument with a Valari noble wouldn't exactly help my case, Justin replied with a faint smile. A wise assessment, Amber acknowledged. The first phase of today's trial is complete. The second awaits us in the atrium. What should I expect? Justin asked as they walked. A different kind of challenge, Amber replied cryptically. One that will test attributes other than political acumen. The atrium turned out to be a vast chamber in the center of the ship, its ceiling a transparent dome that offered a breathtaking view of the star-streaked void of subspace. But it wasn't the view that caught Justin's attention. It was the environment within. The chamber had been transformed into a simulated jungle, with towering vegetation, mist-shrouded pathways, and what appeared to be variable gravity fields. "The training ground," Amber explained, leading him toward an equipment alcove. "Today, we engage in physical trial." Justin eyed the jungle environment with apprehension. "I should warn you, I'm an engineer, not a warrior. My combat training was basic at best." "This is understood," Amber replied, selecting a training spear from the weapons rack and handing it to him. "The purpose is not to demonstrate mastery, but to reveal character through challenge." She chose a similar weapon for herself, then made an adjustment to a control panel near the entrance. Justin felt a sudden heaviness, as if his body weight had nearly doubled. "High-gravity simulation," Amber explained, seemingly unaffected by the increased force. "It will make the exercise more illuminating." Justin gripped the training spear tightly, trying to adjust to the increased gravity as they entered the jungle environment. The mist swirled around them, limiting visibility and creating an atmosphere of primal mystery. Amber moved with natural grace despite the gravity, her form fluid and her balance perfect. "The exercise is simple," she said, turning to face him with her spear held at the ready. "We spar. I observe your responses under pressure." Before Justin could reply, she lunged forward with startling speed, the blunted tip of her training spear aimed at his midsection. He reacted instinctively, parrying the thrust awkwardly, but effectively. The force of the impact vibrated through his arms, nearly causing him to lose his grip on the weapon. "Good reflexes," Amber commented, already circling for another attack. "But reflexes alone are insufficient." She feinted left, then struck from the right. And this time, Justin wasn't quick enough. The blunted spear connected with his ribs, not hard enough to injure, but with enough force to drive the breath from his lungs. He staggered back, struggling to maintain his footing under the increased gravity. "Predictable," Amber observed. "You defend where you expect the attack, not where it actually comes from." Justin nodded, regaining his breath and his stance. "I told you I'm not a warrior." "Yet you continue to stand," she noted. "This shows determination, if not skill." The sparring continued, with Justin taking far more hits than he landed. The high gravity made every movement a struggle, and sweat soon soaked his uniform. Yet he refused to yield, pushing himself to adapt, to learn from each exchange. When he finally managed to execute a successful counterattack, catching Amber off guard with a low sweep, her expression registered genuine surprise, followed by what might have been approval. After what felt like hours, but was likely less than one, Amber called a halt to the exercise. Justin leaned on his spear, breathing heavily, his muscles burning from the exertion under high gravity. "You did not expect to win," Amber stated, observing him closely. "Yet you continued to fight. Why?" Justin wiped sweat from his brow. "Because giving up would have been failure. Fighting, even when outmatched, at least showed I was willing to try." She nodded slowly. "A worthy perspective. Many would have surrendered to preserve their pride, claiming the contest unfair. You chose to engage despite the disadvantage. Plus," Justin added with a tired smile, "engineers don't like to leave problems unsolved, even when the problem is how not to get hit with a stick." For the first time, Amber's formal demeanor cracked slightly, and something like amusement flickered in her golden eyes. "An interesting approach to combat philosophy. Come, the physical trial is complete. The next phase awaits." They left the jungle environment, the gravity returning to normal as they exited. Justin's relief was palpable. He would certainly be sore tomorrow, but he had survived the test with his dignity, if not his pride, intact. After a brief rest and refreshment, Amber led him deep into the lower decks of the ship, to areas typically off-limits to all but the engineering and maintenance crews. Here, The aesthetic elegance of the upper decks gave way to functional efficiency, exposed conduits, humming machinery, and the subtle vibration of the ship's propulsion systems. "This is your domain," Amber said as they navigated the utilitarian corridors. "Now, you will show me your expertise, as I have demonstrated mine." Justin felt a surge of confidence. Here, among the systems and machinery he understood intimately, he was on familiar ground. "What would you like to see?" "The reconfiguration you implemented for the Noble Wing," she replied. "The one that brought you to my chamber yesterday." He led her to a central junction where multiple power conduits converged, explaining as they walked. The Noble Wing was experiencing power fluctuations after the structural upgrades. The original configuration couldn't handle the increased demand from the new crystallite lighting and environmental systems. At the junction, he pointed out the modifications he had made, rerouting power through auxiliary channels, implementing load balancing algorithms, and adding redundancy to prevent future failures. As he spoke, his natural enthusiasm for his work emerged, his hands gesturing animatedly as he detailed the technical challenges and solutions. To his surprise, Amber followed his explanation with evident understanding, occasionally asking insightful questions that revealed a deeper technical knowledge than he had expected from a diplomatic noble. She knelt beside him to examine a particularly complex junction box, her golden eyes studying the configuration with genuine interest. "You speak of these systems with passion," she observed. "The same passion our warriors bring to combat, or our diplomats to negotiation." Justin nodded. "Engineering isn't just about making things work. It's about making them work better, more efficiently, finding elegant solutions to complex problems." "And this brings you satisfaction?" "It does," he confirmed. "There's something deeply rewarding about understanding how systems interconnect, how each component affects the whole." Amber rose to her feet, her tall form graceful, even in the confined space of the engineering deck. "This perspective has value. Many see only what is before them, the immediate challenge or reward. Few consider the interconnectedness of all things." They spent another hour in the engineering sections, with Justin explaining various systems and modifications. Amber proved to be an attentive and perceptive audience, quickly grasping concepts that often confounded non-technical personnel. By the time they returned to the upper decks, Justin felt he had at least partially redeemed himself after his poor showing in the combat trial. The day concluded with a formal dinner in Amber's private dining chamber, attended by a small group of Valari nobles who seemed less openly hostile than those in the council meeting. The conversation flowed more naturally, touching on topics ranging from interstellar politics to cultural differences between humans and Valari. Justin found himself gradually relaxing, contributing to the discussion when appropriate and listening attentively when others spoke. As the gathering dispersed, and Justin prepared to return to his quarters, Amber detained him briefly. "The first day of the trial has been informative," she said. "You have shown resilience in unfamiliar territory, both political and physical. You have demonstrated expertise in your domain. These are positive indicators." "Thank you," Justin replied, genuinely pleased by the assessment. "I've learned a great deal about Valari customs today as well. Tomorrow will bring new challenges," she warned. "Rest well, Engineer Hale. You will need your strength and your wits." Justin returned to his quarters, exhausted but strangely exhilarated. Despite the bizarre circumstances and the physical toll of the day's activities, he found himself looking forward to the continuation of the trial. Lady Amber was unlike anyone he had ever met, commanding yet fair, traditional yet unexpectedly adaptable. And beneath her formal exterior, he had glimpsed moments of genuine curiosity and even humor. As he drifted off to sleep, Justin wondered what new challenges tomorrow would bring, and whether he was truly prepared to face them. The second day of the trial began earlier than Justin had anticipated, with a summons to Amber's chambers before the ship's day cycle had fully engaged. Still sore from the previous day's combat training, he made his way through the quiet corridors, wondering what new tests awaited him. Amber received him in a meditation chamber, a serene space illuminated by bioluminescent plants and featuring a shallow pool of water at its center. She was dressed more simply today, in what appeared to be the Volari equivalent of training attire. "Today, we continue the physical assessment," she announced without preamble, "but with a different focus. Yesterday tested your response to direct challenge. Today, we examine endurance and adaptability." Justin nodded, mentally preparing himself for another grueling physical ordeal. "I'm ready." Amber led him to a different section of the atrium, where the simulated environment had been reconfigured. Gone was the jungle setting, replaced by what appeared to be a barren, rocky landscape, with steep inclines and treacherous footing. Once again, the gravity was increased, though not as severely as the previous day. "We will traverse this terrain together," Amber explained. "The path is challenging, but not impossible. The goal is to reach the summit." She pointed to a distant peak, shrouded in artificial mist. "Any rules or restrictions?" Justin asked, eyeing the difficult landscape. "Only this," she replied, producing a slender metal band. "We will be tethered. Your success is my success. Your failure, my failure." She attached one end of the band to her wrist and the other to his, creating a link between them that allowed for movement, but ensured they could not become separated by more than a few meters. The climb was every bit as challenging as it appeared. The increased gravity made each step a deliberate effort, and the shifting terrain often gave way beneath their feet, forcing rapid adjustments and quick thinking. Justin found himself drawing on reserves of stamina he hadn't known he possessed, driven partly by determination and partly by the knowledge that his performance directly affected Amber. They worked together, finding routes, testing footholds, occasionally pulling each other up particularly steep sections. Despite her slender build, Amber possessed remarkable strength and endurance, often taking the lead on the more difficult passages. But she also deferred to Justin when his engineering perspective offered insights into the structural stability of their path. About halfway up the simulated mountain, a section of rock gave way beneath Justin's feet, sending him sliding toward a precipice. The tether between them went taut as Amber braced herself, halting his fall with a strength that belied her frame. With careful coordination, they managed to pull him back to safety. "An effective demonstration of the bond's purpose," Amber commented once Justin was secure. "Neither succeeds alone, neither fails alone." Justin nodded, his respect for the Volari tradition growing. "A physical representation of mutual responsibility." "Precisely," she confirmed. "In Volari philosophy, all relationships create bonds of obligation. The tether merely makes visible what is always present, yet often ignored." They continued their ascent, the challenges growing more complex as they neared the summit. At times, they had to backtrack and find alternate routes. At others, they were forced to make precarious leaps across gaps, relying on each other for balance and support. When they finally reached the summit, both were exhausted but triumphant. The simulated environment provided a panoramic view of star systems and nebulae, an artificial yet breathtaking representation of the cosmos beyond the ship. "We have succeeded together," Amber stated, her golden eyes reflecting the stellar display. "This completes the physical aspect of the trial." "What comes next?" Justin asked, still catching his breath from the climb. "Observation of a more personal nature," she replied. "Tonight, you will join me for the watching of stars, a ritual of contemplation and connection." The remainder of the day passed in less physically demanding activities. Amber introduced Justin to various aspects of Volari culture, their art, their music, their philosophical traditions. He found himself increasingly fascinated by the complexity and depth of their civilization, which blended technological sophistication with ancient ritual in ways that somehow avoided contradiction. As the ship's cycle turned toward evening, Amber led him to a small observatory dome on the upper deck. Unlike the main observation deck, this was a private space, intimately arranged with low cushions surrounding a central firepot that burned with a cool blue flame. "The watching of stars is a ritual of quietude," Amber explained, as they seated themselves on opposite sides of the fire. "We observe the cosmos. We share thoughts, but without urgency or purpose beyond understanding." Justin nodded, settling onto the cushion and gazing up at the vast expanse visible through the transparent dome. The ship was passing through a region of spectacular beauty, a nebula whose swirling gases glowed in shades of purple, green, and gold. For a time, they sat in comfortable silence, each absorbed in their own contemplation of the cosmic display. Eventually, Amber spoke, her voice soft in the quiet chamber. "All rituals begin with a sign," she said, her gaze still fixed on the stars. "Some sign that draws attention, that suggests meaning where perhaps none was intended. You came to my chamber. You saw me." Justin considered her words carefully. "A random event that created meaning through its interpretation." "Yes," she agreed. "But the meaning is not in the event itself, but in how we respond to it. You could have fled without speaking. I could have chosen to ignore the incident. Instead, we acknowledged it, giving it significance." "In my culture," Justin offered, "we often say that life is what happens while you're making other plans. The unexpected moments often matter more than the ones we carefully arrange." Amber's luminescent patterns pulsed thoughtfully. "A wise perspective. The Volari believe that destiny reveals itself in disruptions to the expected pattern. The truly significant is rarely planned." "That's a lot of significance to place on my poor navigation skills," Justin said with a slight smile. "Perhaps," Amber replied, the hint of amusement returning to her eyes. "Or perhaps it is precisely your willingness to acknowledge error that gives the moment meaning. Many would have fabricated explanations, claimed intention where there was none. You admitted your mistake without hesitation." "There didn't seem much point in lying about it," Justin said. "I was clearly in the wrong place, and pretending otherwise wouldn't have changed that fact. Honesty in error is rarer than you might think," Amber observed, "especially among those in positions of authority or those seeking to impress others. The admission of mistake is often seen as weakness, when in truth, it requires considerable strength." The conversation flowed naturally from there, touching on philosophical questions about truth, perception, and the nature of connection between different beings. Justin found himself speaking more openly than he had expected, sharing thoughts and perspectives he rarely articulated, even to close friends. There was something about the setting, the intimate space, the cosmic backdrop, the ritualistic framing that encouraged a deeper level of exchange. As the hours passed, he noticed subtle changes in Amber's demeanor. The formal reserve that typically characterized her interactions gradually softened, revealing glimpses of a more personal nature beneath the diplomatic exterior. She spoke of her responsibilities to her house, the weight of expectation that came with her position, and her occasional longing for simpler connections. "The rituals serve a purpose," she explained, providing structure and meaning to interactions that might otherwise be chaotic or superficial. But sometimes, they can also become barriers, preventing genuine understanding. "Like the difference between following a map and actually exploring the territory," Justin suggested. Amber's luminescent patterns brightened briefly, a sign of agreement or appreciation. "An apt metaphor, the map guides, but cannot capture the full reality of experience." As the ship's night cycle advanced, their conversation gradually waned, giving way to a comfortable silence. The firepot's blue flame cast gentle shadows across the chamber, and the nebula above slowly shifted in their view as the ship continued its journey. "The second day of the trial concludes," Amber finally said, rising gracefully to her feet. "You have shown physical resilience, cultural curiosity, and personal depth. These are valuable qualities." Justin stood as well, feeling a strange reluctance to see the evening end. "Thank you for sharing this ritual with me. It's been illuminating." "Rest well, Engineer Hale," she said. "The third day brings the most significant challenges yet." As Justin made his way back to his quarters, he found himself reflecting on the rapid evolution of his relationship with Lady Amber. What had begun as a mortifying mistake had somehow transformed into something unexpectedly meaningful. Despite the formal framework of the trial, he had glimpsed aspects of her true self, intelligent, thoughtful, and possessed of a subtle warmth beneath her regal exterior. More surprising still was his own response. The initial panic and reluctance had given way to genuine interest and respect. Whether this constituted the harmony that the trial was designed to assess, he couldn't yet say, but he was no longer certain that completing the ritual and parting ways was what he wanted. The third day of the trial dawned with an unexpected development. Justin was awakened by an urgent communication from Ambassador Myron, summoning him to a secure briefing room immediately. Concerned that something had gone wrong with the trial, he hurried to the designated location, only to find not only Myron, but also Chief Engineer Meyer waiting for him. "Engineer Hale," Meyer greeted him grimly. "We have a situation that requires your expertise and potentially impacts your current diplomatic engagement." "What's happened?" Justin asked, immediately alert. Myron activated a secure display, showing what appeared to be encrypted communication fragments. "Our security systems intercepted these transmissions being sent from within the ship to an unknown external receiver. They're heavily encrypted, but what we've been able to decode suggests a plot against Lady Amber Valari." Justin studied the fragments, his engineering background allowing him to recognize patterns in the code. "These are using Drenth encryption protocols," he noted, referring to a rival house to the Valari, "but with some modifications to mask their origin." "That's our assessment as well," Meyer confirmed. "And the timing is suspicious, coinciding with your trial of dissonance with Lady Amber." "You think this is related?" Justin asked, the implications sinking in. Myron nodded gravely. "The Valari succession is complex, and Lady Amber's position is not without challengers. A human consort would be controversial. There are factions who might prefer to eliminate her, rather than risk her making unconventional alliances." "I need to warn her," Justin said, already moving toward the door. "Wait," Meyer called. "There's protocol for this. The Valari have their own security procedures. If we present this evidence improperly, it could be dismissed or, worse, seen as human interference in their internal affairs." "So what do we do?" Justin demanded. "Lady Amber has requested your presence in the Hall of Witnesses at mid-cycle," Myron explained. "We believe she may already be aware of the threat and is taking steps to address it through Valari channels. Your role will be critical." "What role?" Justin asked, a sense of foreboding growing within him. "The Vexier's witness," Meyer said. "It's a Valari truth verification ritual. Lady Amber intends to use your outsider status to her advantage in exposing the plot." Justin took a deep breath, processing this new development. "What do I need to know?" Myron and Meyer spent the next hour briefing him on the Vexier's witness ritual, an ancient Valari custom used in cases of suspected betrayal or conspiracy. As an outsider without political ties to any Valari house, Justin would serve as an impartial witness, his testimony verified by a special device called a bond band that detected physiological signs of deception. When he finally made his way to the Hall of Witnesses, Justin found it already filled with Valari nobles, their luminescent patterns flickering with tension and anticipation. Lady Amber stood at the center of the chamber, her formal attire more elaborate than any he had seen her wear previously. Clearly, this was an event of significant importance. "Engineer Justin Hale," she announced as he entered, her voice carrying the formal resonance of Valari ceremony. "You have been summoned as Vexier's witness in a matter of grave concern to House Valari. Do you accept this duty?" All eyes turned to him, and Justin felt the weight of the moment. This was no longer merely about the trial of dissonance. It had escalated to a matter of life and death, of political stability for an entire species. "I accept the duty," he replied, his voice steady despite his inner tension. Amber gestured him forward, and a senior Valari official presented the bond band, a slender circlet of metallic material that pulsed with subtle bioluminescence. The official placed it around Justin's wrist, where it adjusted to fit perfectly against his skin. "The band will verify truth," Amber explained for the benefit of the assembled witnesses. "It monitors the physiological markers unique to each species, calibrating to detect deception. As an outsider, with no stake in Valari politics, Engineer Hale serves as the ideal conduit for truth." She then turned to address the gathered nobles. "I have called this assembly to present evidence of treachery against House Valari, specifically, a plot orchestrated by elements of House Drenth to assassinate me and destabilize our position in the upcoming convocation." Murmurs rippled through the assembly, and Justin noticed Lord Zoral's luminescent patterns flaring with what might have been alarm or indignation. "These are serious accusations." "Lady Amber," interjected an elderly Valari, whom Justin recognized as the Grey Elder, the senior representative of the Valari Council. "What evidence supports them?" "The evidence lies in communications intercepted by ship security," Amber replied. "Communications that utilized modified Drenth encryption protocols." She turned to Justin. "Engineer Hale, as a systems specialist, you have examined these communications. Present your findings to the assembly." Justin stepped forward, aware that his role was now far more significant than he had anticipated. With careful precision, he explained the technical aspects of the intercepted communications, the encryption methods, the routing protocols, the specific markers that identified their origin. As he spoke, the bond band on his wrist pulsed with a steady indigo light, the color of truth, according to Valari tradition. "The communications reveal a planned attack during the upcoming convocation at the Pillar of Accord," he concluded. Lady Amber was to be eliminated during the ceremonial procession, with the assassination blamed on human extremists, potentially triggering a diplomatic crisis between our species. The assembly erupted in agitation, luminescent patterns flashing in patterns of alarm, disbelief, and outrage. Lord Zoral rose to his feet, his posture rigid with anger. "These accusations are baseless," he declared. "House Drenth has been a loyal ally to the Valari for generations. This human knows nothing of our politics or our history. His testimony is worthless." "The bond band indicates otherwise," the Grey Elder observed, gesturing to the steady indigo glow emanating from Justin's wrist. "The witness speaks truth as he perceives it." "Perception is not reality," Zoral countered. "He may believe what he says, but that does not make it fact." Amber raised a hand, silencing the growing debate. "I anticipated such objections. Therefore, I have arranged a more definitive demonstration." She activated a central display, showing the ship's current position in space. "At these coordinates, we should find proof of Drenth involvement, a cloaked vessel waiting to rendezvous with their operative aboard this ship." The revelation sent another wave of shock through the assembly. Cloaking technology was highly restricted, its use without proper authorization a serious violation of interstellar law. If such a vessel exists, it would indeed constitute evidence, the Grey Elder acknowledged. "But how do you propose to locate a cloaked ship? By definition, they are undetectable." "Not entirely undetectable," Justin interjected, the engineering problem momentarily overshadowing the political drama. Cloaking technology masks visual and standard sensor signatures, but it creates subtle distortions in the surrounding space, distortions that can be detected with properly calibrated equipment. Amber nodded in agreement. Engineer Hale and I have developed a method to reveal the Drenth vessel. With the Council's permission, we will demonstrate. The Grey Elder conferred briefly with the other senior nobles, then gave a solemn nod. Proceed with the demonstration, Lady Amber. If a Drenth vessel is indeed present, it will constitute a serious breach of multiple treaties. What followed was a carefully orchestrated operation that Justin and Amber had planned during a brief, private meeting before the assembly. Using a small scout ship launched from the main vessel, they deployed a specialized sensor array that Justin had hastily modified based on his knowledge of cloaking technologies. The array emitted a specific frequency that interacted with the phase shift field used by most cloaking systems, temporarily disrupting its effectiveness. The assembly watched in tense silence as the sensor data was relayed to the main display. For several moments, nothing changed, and then, suddenly, a silhouette appeared where empty space had been moments before. The outline of a Drenth attack vessel, its weapon systems primed and ready. The evidence was irrefutable. The Grey Elder immediately ordered the ship's defensive systems activated, and the exposed Drenth vessel, realizing it had been discovered, attempted to flee. It was too late. The Volari ship's superior weaponry disabled the attacker before it could escape or deploy its weapons. In the aftermath, a boarding party confirmed the vessel's Drenth origin and recovered additional evidence linking the assassination plot to high-ranking members of House Drenth, including communications that implicated Lord Zorel as a key conspirator. The Vexier's witness ritual concluded with a formal judgment from the Grey Elder, stripping Zorel of his rank and ordering his immediate confinement, pending a full tribunal. House Drenth would face severe diplomatic and economic sanctions for their treachery. As the assembly dispersed, the atmosphere electric with the dramatic revelations. Amber approached Justin, her expression both satisfied and concerned. "You performed admirably as Vexier's witness," she said, her voice low enough that only he could hear. "But I fear we have only uncovered the surface of this conspiracy. The intercepted communications mentioned multiple cloaked vessels. This was merely the first." Justin nodded. The implications clear. "They're planning something bigger than a single assassination attempt." "Yes," Amber confirmed. "And I believe it will culminate at the convocation at the Pillar of Accord. All the noble houses will be gathered there. A perfect target for those seeking to reshape the political landscape." "What do we do?" Justin asked, already thinking through the technical challenges of detecting multiple cloaked vessels in a crowded diplomatic gathering. "We spring the trap," Amber replied, a determined glint in her golden eyes. "But on our terms, not theirs." The next several hours were a whirlwind of activity. With the immediate threat exposed, Amber was able to consolidate her political position among the Volari nobles, while Justin worked with the ship's engineering team to refine the cloaking detection system. Together, they developed a plan to expose the broader conspiracy at the convocation, a plan that would require perfect timing, technical precision, and no small amount of courage. As the ship approached the Pillar of Accord, a massive space station that served as neutral ground for diplomatic gatherings, Justin found himself in the unusual position of strategic advisor to Lady Amber. The formal trial of dissonance had been temporarily overshadowed by the immediate crisis, but not forgotten. In fact, their collaboration in exposing the initial plot had created a bond between them that transcended the ritualistic framework. The Pillar of Accord lived up to its name, a colossal structure of gleaming metal and crystalline elements. It floated serenely in the void, its design incorporating architectural influences from dozens of species. The central chamber, where the convocation would take place, was a vast amphitheater capable of accommodating representatives from all the major houses and alliances. Security was tight, with vessels from multiple species patrolling the surrounding space. Yet Justin and Amber knew that the true threat would not come from an external attack, but from within, operatives already in place, waiting for the signal from the hidden Drenth vessels. "The detection system is ready," Justin informed Amber as they prepared for the convocation. "Once activated, it should reveal any cloaked ships within range of the station, but we'll only have a brief window before they realize what's happening and either attack or flee." "Then timing is essential," Amber replied, adjusting the ceremonial attire that marked her as the representative of House Valari. "The accusations must be made at precisely the right moment, when all the key players are present, and the evidence can be presented without opportunity for interference." Justin nodded, uncomfortably aware of the weight of responsibility resting on their shoulders. A miscalculation could result not only in Amber's assassination, but potentially in a broader conflict between multiple species. "Are you certain you wish to proceed with this plan?" Amber asked, studying him closely. "As an outsider, you could withdraw without dishonor. This is not your fight." Justin met her gaze steadily. "It became my fight the moment I walked into your chamber," he replied. "Besides, I've never been good at walking away from unfinished business, whether it's a faulty translation system or an interstellar conspiracy." A subtle smile curved Amber's lips, and her luminescent patterns pulsed with what Justin had come to recognize as appreciation. "Then let us proceed. Engineer Hale. The convocation awaits." The central chamber of the Pillar of Accord was even more impressive from within than it had appeared on approach. Tiered seating surrounded a central platform, with representatives from dozens of houses and alliances, arranged according to complex protocols of precedence and alliance. The atmosphere was one of formal dignity, but Justin could sense the undercurrents of tension and political maneuvering beneath the ceremonial surface. Amber took her place in the section reserved for House Valari, with Justin at her side as her formal companion. Their presence generated subtle ripples of reaction among the assembled dignitaries. The human engineer, whose trial of dissonance had become the subject of widespread speculation throughout the diplomatic community. The convocation began with traditional ceremonies, formal acknowledgments of the gathered houses, ritual invocations of peaceful discourse, the symbolic exchange of tokens representing mutual respect. Justin observed it all with the attentive eye of an engineer studying an unfamiliar system, noting the patterns and protocols that govern this elaborate political machinery. When the time came for representatives to address specific concerns, Amber rose to her feet, her posture regal and her luminescent patterns glowing with formal intensity. The chamber quieted as she stepped onto the central platform, all eyes fixed upon the Valari noble. "Esteemed representatives," she began, her voice carrying clearly through the vast space. "I come before the convocation not merely as the voice of House Valari, but as the bearer of grave tidings that concern all gathered here." She paused, allowing the gravity of her words to register, then continued. "Within these hallowed walls, dedicated to peace and cooperation, a plot unfolds, a conspiracy aimed not only at my life, but at the stability of the alliance itself." Murmurs rippled through the assembly, some incredulous, others concerned. Justin noted the reactions of the Drenth representatives, subtle tension in their posture, an alertness that spoke of preparation rather than surprise. "This is a serious accusation, Lady Amber," stated the convocation arbiter, a neutral figure responsible for maintaining order in the proceedings. "What evidence supports such claims?" Amber gestured to Justin, inviting him to step forward. "Evidence already verified through the Vexier's witness ritual, and further proof that I am prepared to demonstrate here and now." Justin moved to join her on the platform, the detection device concealed within his formal attire. This was the critical moment, the point of greatest vulnerability in their plan. If the Drenth operatives recognized the threat before the detection system was activated, they might strike immediately, regardless of the consequences. With the Convocation's permission, Justin said, addressing the assembly with a confidence he didn't entirely feel. I will present technical evidence of vessels operating under cloak in violation of treaty, positioned to support operatives within this very chamber. The Arbiter conferred briefly with representatives from several neutral factions, then nodded permission. Proceed with your demonstration, Engineer Hale. But be warned, false accusations in this chamber carry serious diplomatic consequences. Justin activated the detection system, and the central display of the chamber suddenly illuminated with sensor data. For a moment, nothing appeared, and then, just as in the previous demonstration, silhouettes materialized where empty space had been. Not one vessel, but three, positioned strategically around the Pillar of Accord. The chamber erupted in alarm and outrage. The Arbiter called for order, but the damage was done. The evidence was visible to all, irrefutable in its clarity. These vessels bear Drenth signatures, Justin explained, his voice cutting through the chaos. They maintain communication with operatives inside this chamber, operatives waiting for the signal to strike. Amber stepped forward again, her gaze fixed on the Drenth delegation. The conspiracy extends beyond these ships. I have evidence of communications between House Drenth and certain representatives present in this chamber. Communications planning not only my assassination, but a broader restructuring of power through violence and deception. One of the Drenth representatives rose to his feet, his posture defiant. These are fabrications. House Drenth rejects these accusations and demands that this human be removed from the convocation for spreading false information. The information is verified, Amber countered, activating a secondary display that showed the decoded communications recovered from the captured Drenth vessel. These messages bear Drenth authentication codes and detail specific plans for attacks during this convocation. The evidence was damning. As the communications were displayed for all to see, several representatives, who had been implicated in the conspiracy, attempted to leave the chamber, only to be detained by security forces. The Drenth delegation found themselves suddenly isolated, their allies distancing themselves as the extent of the plot became clear. In the space beyond the station, the exposed Drenth vessels, realizing their cover was blown, attempted to flee. They were intercepted by security ships that had been positioned in anticipation of this moment, based on the information Justin and Amber had provided in advance. The convocation descended into controlled chaos, accusations, denials, hasty realignments of allegiance as the political landscape shifted in real time. Through it all, Amber maintained her composure, presenting evidence methodically and responding to questions with diplomatic precision. Justin remained at her side, providing technical explanations when needed and observing the unfolding drama with a mixture of relief and lingering tension. By the time order was fully restored, the political balance had shifted dramatically. House Drenth stood accused of multiple violations of interstellar law and faced severe sanctions. Their representatives were confined pending formal investigation, and their assets within convocation space were frozen. More importantly, Amber's position had been strengthened significantly. Her actions had not only protected her own life, but potentially prevented a wider conflict that could have destabilized the entire alliance. Representatives from multiple houses approached to offer support and express admiration for her courage and strategic thinking. As the formal proceedings concluded, and the representatives dispersed to private discussions and negotiations, Amber drew Justin aside to a quiet alcove overlooking the vast expanse of space beyond the station. "The crisis is averted," she said, her formal demeanor softening now that they were relatively alone. "Thanks in no small part to your assistance." "I just provided the technical solution," Justin replied modestly. "You're the one who navigated the political minefield." "A collaboration of complementary skills," Amber observed. "Perhaps that is the true meaning of harmony." not similarity, but effective difference. Justin nodded, suddenly remembering that amidst all the drama and danger, they had never formally concluded the trial of dissonance. The third day is nearly over, he noted. The trial concludes today. Yes, Amber agreed, her golden eyes studying him with new depth. A decision must be made. Harmony or discord, continuation or conclusion. And what is your assessment, Lady Amber? Justin asked, surprised by how much her answer mattered to him. She was silent for a moment, her luminescent patterns pulsing in thoughtful patterns. The trial revealed more than I anticipated, she finally said. Not merely about you, but about myself as well. I observed courage where I expected hesitation, adaptability where I expected rigidity, and loyalty where I had no right to expect anything at all. I learned a few things too, Justin admitted, about Volari culture, about diplomacy, and about you. And what did you learn about me, Engineer Hale? Amber asked, genuine curiosity in her voice. That beneath the formal exterior and the noble title. There's someone I'd like to know better, he replied honestly. Someone with courage, intelligence, and a subtle sense of humor that appears when least expected. Her luminescent patterns brightened briefly, a reaction Justin had come to recognize as pleasure or amusement. A fair assessment, she acknowledged, and one that suggests harmony rather than discord. Does that mean? Justin began, then paused, uncertain of the precise terminology. It means, Amber said, that I would find it acceptable, more than acceptable, to continue beyond the trial, if that is also your wish. For the first time since this strange journey began, Justin felt absolute clarity. Despite the bizarre circumstances of their meeting, despite the cultural differences and the political complications, there was something genuine between them, something worth exploring further. It is, he confirmed. Though I should warn you, I still don't know all the proper Volari protocols. I might make more mistakes along the way. Then it is fortunate, Amber replied, the hint of a smile playing at her lips, that some mistakes lead to unexpected harmony. As they stood together, overlooking the vastness of space from the pillar of accord, Justin reflected on the improbable series of events that had brought them to this point. A wrong turn in a crystallite corridor, a cultural misunderstanding, a conspiracy uncovered, each step leading not to disaster, as he had initially feared, but to a new beginning. The journey back to the Volari vessel was marked by a subtle but significant shift in their relationship. The formal structures of the trial had been fulfilled, and while certain protocols remained in place, particularly in public settings, there was a new ease between them, a foundation of shared experience and mutual respect that transcended the ritualistic framework. The Volari nobles who had initially regarded Justin with skepticism or outright hostility now treated him with a measure of deference, aware of his role in exposing the Drenth conspiracy and protecting Lady Amber. Even those who might have objected to a human consort on principle found it difficult to argue against one who had proven his worth so dramatically. In the privacy of Amber's chambers, they spoke more openly about the future, the practical implications of their decision to continue beyond the trial, the adjustments that would be required on both sides, the potential challenges they might face. The position of consort carries significant responsibilities, Amber explained, as they sat beside the central fire pot, its blue flame casting gentle shadows across the chamber. You would be expected to participate in certain ceremonial functions, to understand and respect Volari protocols, to represent both your species and mine in diplomatic contexts. I'm willing to learn, Justin replied, though I might need a patient teacher. There will be those who object regardless of your efforts, she warned. Some traditionalists believe that the bloodlines should remain pure, that cross-species bonds dilute our heritage. And what do you believe? Justin asked, genuinely curious about her personal views beyond the political considerations. Amber's luminescent patterns pulsed thoughtfully. I believe that strength comes from diversity, not uniformity. Our histories show that isolation leads to stagnation, while exchange of ideas, of perspectives, even of genetic material, leads to resilience and adaptation. She paused, then added more personally. And I believe that connection based on mutual respect and shared purpose transcends biological categories. Justin nodded, appreciating both the philosophical depth and the personal significance of her response. On Earth, we have a saying, the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. It applies to engineering systems, but also to relationships. When different elements come together effectively, they create something neither could achieve alone. A concept not unlike the Volari principle of harmonic resonance, Amber noted. Perhaps our cultures are not so different in the fundamentals, despite the surface variations. As the days passed, Justin gradually integrated more fully into life aboard the Volari vessel. He resumed some of his engineering duties, but now balanced them with the new responsibilities that came with his evolving relationship with Amber. He studied Volari customs diligently, determined to honor her culture, even as she made efforts to understand his. Their relationship developed at a measured pace, guided by Volari traditions but not constrained by them. They found a rhythm that accommodated both her need for certain formalities and his more direct approach, creating a unique dynamic that drew strength from both their differences and their commonalities. One evening, as they stood together in the observatory dome, watching the ship pass through a particularly beautiful region of space, Amber posed a question that caught Justin by surprise. If you had not taken a wrong turn that day, she asked, if you had found the communications array as intended, do you believe our paths would ever have crossed in any meaningful way? Justin considered the question seriously. Probably not, he admitted. I would have fixed the translation system and continued with my regular duties. You would have continued with your diplomatic responsibilities. We might have passed in corridors occasionally, but without any reason to interact. A sobering thought, Amber mused. How many potential connections never form simply because the initial sign, the disruption to the pattern, never occurs? On the other hand, Justin suggested, maybe some connections are inevitable, just waiting for the right circumstances. Perhaps if not that wrong turn, then some other incident would have brought us together eventually. Amber's tail curled thoughtfully. A romantic notion. The Volari have a concept called destined resonance, the idea that certain souls naturally vibrate at compatible frequencies, drawing them together across time and space. It is considered a poetic fancy rather than scientific fact, but it has persisted in our literature for millennia. I like that idea, Justin said, though as an engineer, I'd probably call it harmonic convergence or something equally technical. Her luminescent patterns brightened in the way he now recognized as amusement. The terminology differs, but the concept remains. Perhaps there is wisdom in both our approaches, the poetic and the technical, the traditional and the innovative. As their ship rejoined the main Volari fleet and continued its diplomatic mission, Justin and Amber faced periodic challenges, cultural misunderstandings, political complications, occasional resistance from traditionalists on both sides. Yet they weathered these difficulties together, each bringing their unique strengths to the partnership. Justin's technical expertise proved valuable in numerous situations, while Amber's diplomatic skills and deep understanding of interstellar politics helped navigate the complex social landscape they inhabited. Together, they formed a partnership that transcended the original mating invitation that had brought them together, becoming something neither had fully anticipated, but both now valued deeply. In time, their union came to symbolize something larger than themselves, a bridge between different worlds, a testament to the possibility of connection across seemingly insurmountable differences. where once Justin had seen only an embarrassing mistake, a wrong turn in a crystallite corridor. He now recognized the beginning of an unexpected journey, one that continued to unfold with each passing day, each new challenge, each moment of discovery. And Lady Amber Villari, heir to an ancient house and guardian of time-honored traditions, found that some traditions gained new meaning when viewed through fresh eyes, that rituals designed to ensure compatibility had indeed served their purpose, though in ways no one could have predicted. As their ship continued its journey through the star-streaked void, carrying them toward new worlds and new challenges, they stood together at the observation dome, their reflections superimposed against the cosmic backdrop, different in form and origin, yet harmonized in purpose and affection, living proof that sometimes the wrong turn leads exactly where you need to go.